is Ron Keel right here on your classic metal show with the last ride and the guy riding in on his steel horse. Oh, yeah, that's Bon Jovi. Getting into the studio is our good friend Ron Keel. What's going on, Ron?
Good evening, Wendell. Good evening, Chris Aiken. Good evening, everybody. Cranking
Cheers,
up the classic metal show. Happy Saturday to you. Cheers, brother. Welcome to the fan cave. Welcome to the Keel cabin, man. Great to be on the show today.
Welcome to the classic metal show studio, Ron.
Beautiful thing, man. Beautiful thing. I just hope I can follow that last video Skype session you did with John Levin. That was absolutely epic. And so please don't expect any Nuno Betancourt licks from me tonight, but I'll do the best I can to hold up my end of the deal.
Well, that was a first experiment for us, Ron, and thankfully it worked out as well as it did. And, you know, with that being in and out of the way for the first time, we hope to do more type of things. And you're the second batter up. So what do you bring to the table?
I appreciate that. Well, John's a good sport, man. He was a really good sport for that session. A very entertaining, what was it, 90 minutes? He was on the show and just playing. If you didn't know a song, just play it for me. And he'd learn it real quick. You're not going to get that lucky with me. I'm a singer. I rely on the guitar players and the great band that I've got behind me to provide the tasty licks. But I'll do the best I can for you. I'm really looking forward to this. And you always know when you put out a new record, like we've got Fight Like a Band that just came out last week, you cross off the list of things that you need to do to promote that record. The Classic Metal Show is always at the top of the list. You guys have been really good to me for, gosh, almost 2 decades now. I think it was probably 18 years ago or so, nearly 2001 maybe, when it was the first internet radio show I ever appeared on. First time I'd ever even heard of internet radio was the Classic Metal Show. And you guys have been so supportive through the years. I thank you for that. And always a high point of any promotional activity is coming on the show with you guys, talking the rock, rocking the talk. We'll play some songs and we'll entertain people as we always do.
No doubt, man. Well, Ron, as you mentioned, you have this new record, Fight Like a Band. I told you earlier today, I love it. And, you know, it's got that, as I told you before, it has seemed like you've always been trying to merge the two sides of your musical interest together. And it's always seemed like it's leaned a little heavy on one side or a little heavy on the other side. It really does feel this time like maybe you've been able to merge, you know, the styles together to create the record that I think you've always been reaching to get. Is that fair?
It is to a point, but I don't ever consciously enter into a project with a certain musical direction in mind. I just try and write the best songs that I can. And with the Metal Cowboy album, which was the last record that I wrote and released in 2014, certainly that had a style and a direction. It had to be metal, it had to be cowboy. The song you just played, The Last Ride, perfect example of what metal cowboy music is all about. But I think you're right, with this new album, Fight Like a Band, we've managed to have songs that sound a little more Keelish, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Some of that comes from collaborating and writing with the guys in the band. The Metal Cowboy album, I wrote everything on the record myself. The new album, Fight Like a Band, is truly a band effort, and I had a lot of help from the guys with the riffs and the arrangements and the songs and the structures and the feels. And we did not set out with a particularly a direction. We didn't say we're going to make this kind of album or that kind of album. With the Keel record, like Streets of Rock and Roll, we did that 10 years ago now almost. It's got to be a Keel album. It's got to be those 80s rock anthems. There's a taste of that, and more than just a taste of that style on Fight Like a Band, with songs like the title track. Fight Like a Band very much could have been a Keel song, I think. Heart's Gone Wild, very Keel-esque with those strong 80s power riffs and a big anthem chorus. Road Ready, the lead track, the first track on the record, definitely the heaviest track on the record, surely could have been a Keel song. But there's some other textures and flavors there as well. When we went through the process, I just wanted to write the best songs I could and let it all hang out. It's a very diverse record, way more diverse than the last two I mentioned, Metal Cowboy or Streets of Rock and Roll, because there is every style, I think, of music from my gut, from my well,
right. Sure.
that I drew from. There's a couple of songs that you could call country, a song called Just a Cowboy that's on the record definitely a country song, and I did not intend on that song being on the album. I was downstairs right here in the fan cave where I had the guys over. This is where we wrote the songs, right here where you're seeing me in my basement. I'd have the guys over to the house. We'd sit around here in the fan cave and we'd write the tunes. And they took a break, went up to get a beer, have a smoke or something, and I'm just downstairs and I played that Just a Cowboy song, and they walked back in and they said, "What's that?" I said, "It's a song that I wrote." They said, "That's got to be on the record. It's got to be." And it's pretty country, you know. It's got some of that twang and some of that cowboy lyrical attitude, and it's you know. But they loved the song and they got behind it and they wanted to put it on the record because it's a great song, not because it's this style or that style. But I'm getting a lot of that, Chris, and I appreciate the compliment that this is a marriage of Keel and Metal Cowboy together on one record, and the response has been incredible. I'm really proud of it. I think it's the best songs of my career. I wish just being able to open up and collaborate with the guys, which I'm not good at. I'm a control freak, and I'm not always the best collaborator, but these guys bought into my philosophy of songwriting and how I work and how I roll and how I write, and they bought into it. And they came up with brilliant ideas for some of these musical passages and transitions. And if it's a great idea, I don't care where it comes from. The guys in the band deserve a lot of credit for the songwriting on this record, and I'm just glad to be a part of it with them.
Sure. Well, Ron, you know, and we've talked to you about this a little bit before, but now it's finally come all the way through. You know, you obviously had to overcome a ton of turmoil to get to where you are now, between the Badlands Pawn thing fiasco and the Badlands radio station fiasco, and you know your wife obviously having some medical issues that became your number one thing. You know, talk a little bit about how much more, and I know you and I have talked about this personally, but I think the fans will be interested in this as well. Talk a little bit about how much more personal not only this record is, but this band and this grouping and, you know, the music that you're making is, because you had to overcome probably more than anything in your career.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Chris. And we have talked about it. I love sharing that story with the fans, because there's a reason the album is called Fight Like a Band. And there's a reason that these songs are so personal. And that word, the name of the act is Ron Keel Band. The word band is the most important word in the title of the act and in the title of the album. I've always been a band guy. You know, I love doing the solo acoustic gigs, and I've had a lot of one-off projects, whether it's Saber Tiger or some of these other projects that I've done. There's a difference between a project and a band.
Sure.
And a band is a group of guys, a brotherhood that hangs together and hangs tough through thick and thin. And I'm really blessed to have that at this point. As you mentioned, the Badlands debacle, fiasco, whatever you want to call it. The reason we all came here to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to be the Badlands house band and to represent that franchise. And obviously it didn't last as long as we'd hoped. And after 1 year, the bottom fell out of that. Within a matter of weeks, my wife was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and the business was done. We're all out of a job. My wife's got cancer. What are we going to do now? And the guys just hung with me. There's been no personnel changes. Nobody's quit. Nobody's got fired. They had my back. I built this in my basement, what you're seeing now, this fan cave, because when Renee was diagnosed, I didn't know if I was going to be able to tour again. I told the guys this. She's my priority. If she's going to have chemo, or she's going to have radiation, or she's going to have surgery, I'm going to be there. I can't just book a tour and go out on the road. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. So I built this so that I could still at least entertain people from home and take care of her. And they hung with me. They stayed and they hung. And at that point, we said, well, there's not a lot of gigs because I can't tour this year. This was 2017.
Right.
I can't be on tour a whole lot, so let's write some songs. Let's get together down here in the basement or in the rehearsal room and bash out some tunes and write some original songs. I hadn't written a song in 4 years. And I'll go through phases like that. I was a little worried this time because I felt like maybe the well was dry, or that my creativity had run its course. With the Badlands House Band, original music was not encouraged. We did The Right to Rock, and we did a couple of Keel songs. We did a lot of covers, and we represented that franchise the best we could. But I didn't write a song for 4 years until we started writing for this album, and it started to pour out. You open the floodgates, and there it is. And to be able to hang tough through all that adversity, and there's more to it that you don't even know behind the scenes with guys, with their jobs, their lives, their marriages, all the stuff that goes on, and not only the Badlands gig or Renee getting cancer, but I'm glad to say now the band is stronger than ever, and so is Renee. I mean, she's healthy, she's cancer-free, and the band is alive with this great new release, and it's all paid off. Sometimes you got to take that adversity and channel it into your music, and I did that a lot lyrically on this record. There's certain songs, Fight Like a Band, the title track, where I talk about her bout with cancer, when the doctors came in and gave her the news, and I just put that down in lyrics. And I used the fight that she went through and that we went through together for the first verse. And then for the second verse, I went back to the old days on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood and went through the experiences that we had. We had nothing to eat. We had something to prove. And we struggled. We would literally, the cliches are true. You take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you divide it in 4 pieces, and everybody in the band gets a quarter of a sandwich. And I went back to those days and drew upon that inspiration for the title track, Fight Like a Band. Songs like Fire in the Rain, songs about working your ass off and getting nowhere. But that's real, man. And that lyric, one of my favorite lyric lines of all time, fighting the truth with guitars and alcohol. And I'm glad to say that you can't win if you don't fight. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're fighting like a band, and luckily at the end of the boxing match that is our life, there's nobody's going to be judging, I think, except maybe the man upstairs if he's up there listening. I don't know who's going to judge at the end of the day, but I have to judge myself, my band, my life, my music, and I have to give it everything I got. And I believe that we're all on a one-day contract, and I'm going to do the best I can every day to fulfill my obligation to myself and to work hard, create, have fun, and take care of the people I love.
Well, sounds good there, Ron. It sounds like you've always kept a very positive attitude about things, and I've said this on the show a lot of times, and a lot of the things that you're saying here on the show reminds me of my childhood hero, Evel Knievel. He always talked about a positive metal attitude, no matter what the adversity was. And through every adversity, there's an equivalency to benefit if you just look for it. And it sounds like you've lived that to the fullest. So good for you.
That's right. I think he went through even more adversity than me, because I've never had a broken bone in my life. I really have been not only hardworking, but super lucky. I mean, I've been blessed with good health, great opportunities, and great people in my life. Never had a broken bone. I'm very healthy and very thankful for that. But that positive attitude means a lot, man. You manifest those things in your life. You want to be a rock star or a radio personality or whatever you want to be in life. It's not that old cliche that you can do anything you dream of, anything you set your mind to. No, you can't. I couldn't be a rocket scientist if I tried, but I could definitely sing and play and entertain people and do what I was put here to do. And I came to terms with that a long time ago, that I'm an entertainer. I'm a storyteller. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I'm a performer, and very much at peace with who I am and what I do. And the money will come and go. The fame will come and go. As I'm noticing now, the last week since the record's been out, phones are ringing, emails are popping up, their gigs are coming in, and people are responding to the new album. And I'm just really, really proud of this effort. I really appreciate all the great response from the fans. Because you never know. It's been 4 years since I put out an album, and people are buying less and less music. They're streaming Spotify, or they're going to YouTube. So to see all of the fans that are putting their money on the line, and their hard-earned cash, and they're holding up the CD and taking a picture of it and saying, I got the new record and I love it. It means a lot. People are buying music, and they're buying this record, and I can't thank them enough for that.
Sure, absolutely. And I got good news for you, Ron. I happen to have it on good authority that the Classic Metal Show is Jesus's favorite radio show, and he tunes in every Saturday, and so he's probably heard every word you said.
I believe. Praise the Lord. Yeah, man, I believe that. Certainly one of my favorite shows, and you guys have the passion that you have for your music. Not be blowing smoke up your ass for a minute, but man, just to keep going and being driven every Saturday night to put on a show of this quality, and always finding new ways to exploit and take advantage of the technology, whether it's the different platforms that you're on, BitChute now, and all the other stuff that you're doing. I'm keeping an eye on you, and I've always patterned my online radio presence after what you guys do. Neeley, you huge influence on me, and if you guys are doing it, then I'll try and take a cue from that and just follow in your footsteps. You guys have set the bar very high, and I enjoy doing the radio show. I'm back on the air now, which is cool. I'm actually on the air right now in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on 93.3 FM. I got another FM gig, which is really cool to be back on the airwaves, and also the online show on rockrageradio.com. They've picked up the show as a syndicated platform, and you guys have both co-hosted or hosted the show for me in my absence. Sure. I may be calling upon you to do that in the near future. I've got 2 trips to Europe planned in the next couple of months, and I'm busy tour schedule this year, but it's great to be back in that Streets of Rock and Roll 1 hour syndicated weekly format. 1 hour seems to fly by, and it's a lot of fun, but it's not a whole lot of pressure. I can create the show much like I write a song or create an album, as opposed to doing the radio gig daily. 4 hours a day was killing me. I enjoyed it. I'm addicted to it. It's very addicting. Cracking the mic and going live on the radio for all these listeners, and you're putting on a show every day. But the 4 hours a day that I was on the air, it was exhausting. I get off the air at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just beat like I've done a gig. And there's no time for writing or recording or promoting or doing the day-to-day stuff that a band leader and a musician has to do. So I'm glad to be back to the 1 hour syndicated format. I know that all the fans are watching or listening to the Classic Metal Show right now, and they can check out this video in a couple of days. We're Skype video. I want to make sure everybody knows that you'll be able to see what Neeley and Chris and I are doing online right now. You'll be able to see it in a couple of days. They'll share the links, and I'll share them on my Patreon page as well.
Excellent, Ron. Well, Ron, I want to talk a little bit about the music here. I met you for the first time, I believe, in '98, and you were doing your Iron Horse stuff. And the question I have for you is because when you became known per se, you were known as a hard rock kind of metal guy, playing with Yngwie and obviously Keel and your other projects. But then, you went into the whole country format after the 80s kind of died down. And then you kind of, you put your country influences into your rock music. And now here you are 20 some years later, and you're still doing that hybrid thing. When did your interest in like a country style cowboy music begin? Is this something that you always enjoyed, or is it something you discovered, as you went along the way?
That's a good question, and a question that never gets old when I'm asked that in interviews or by fans on Twitter or social media. Now, country is being born to a dirt poor construction worker who sang with Hank Williams, or played guitar with Hank Williams Sr. in Georgia. And that's me. I was born to a poor family from a guy who dropped out of school, I think in the 5th grade. My dad went to the 5th grade and then got a job, started working, played country music. Grew up with that. And I was born in Savannah, Georgia. I moved to Nashville at the age of 17. That's country. Metal is starving your ass off on the streets of Hollywood in 1981, playing in a band called Steeler, and I've done that too. Those are pieces of my life and parts of my musical DNA. A lot of people don't realize that not only country, rock, southern rock, I won awards in high school for playing jazz music. I was classically trained. I played in the orchestra with a group of 60, 70 teenage high school kids in the school orchestra, learning to play a multitude of instruments and reading sheet music that was written 500 years ago. An amazing challenge. And I grew up in a time when you could hear the Eagles and Black Sabbath on the same radio station in the 70s. For me, musical prejudice is, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Now, there's certain kinds of music I don't like. I'm not a rap guy. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't want to hear it. Maybe that's a cultural thing because I'm not of that culture. It's not racist. It's just that's not my thing. It doesn't resonate with me. but very few kinds of music don't resonate with me, because music has been my life. It's been my life's work, whether it was as a kid with the Beatles and the Stones and the Who, and then, of course, as I got older, I gravitated to the stuff that was louder, heavier, faster, more offensive, whether it was Alice Cooper or Kiss and Judas Priest and Scorpions, and for different reasons with each of those bands. Kiss, and AC/DC, two primal, pretty simple bands that the music wasn't so complicated that a kid like me growing up could play. We could play Kiss songs, we could play AC/DC songs. You didn't have to be a virtuoso. I never could play Van Halen songs or Randy Rhoads licks, but I could play the Kiss stuff and I could play the AC/DC stuff. So that's what I gravitated towards. Plus, they're putting on a show. I always love to see a show, a band that's got theatrics, that's having a good time, that the choreographed moves and the smoke and all the effects. That's still a part of my show today. But I was never truly at home in any one genre. There's not one place where I can say, this is what I do, this is where I belong. Metal, I love it. It's always a part of me, and even during the country years in the 90s, at the height of my country phase, if you will, I went to Japan and did the heaviest record of my career, which was the Saber Tiger. That's by far the heaviest, most progressive album of my life. And because I love that music, it's not like I wanted to divorce that or never do it again.
Sure.
I just wanted to explore some new territory to where I could feel at home and not have to, because I lost everything, man. In 1990, 91, I lost everybody's seen the VH1 special. We're sitting on the back of my pickup truck with the guitar. It's the video clip that will never die. But it's true, man. I lost everything. We lost the beach house. We lost the sports cars. Couldn't pay the mortgage. All of a sudden, I got nothing, man. Band broke up. I got nothing but my music. And when you sit there with an acoustic guitar and you sing and play, it's the best therapy of my life, man. I could play a song, literally go out in the woods with a campfire, just pour my heart out and sing songs about heartbreak and suffering and chasing women and drinking whiskey. You know, that's all country music too. There's a lot of common ground. But I was never fully at home in country music because they do the same thing as metal. It's the same thing. They'll tell you what you can and can't do, what you can and can't look like, what you can and can't say. Screw that, man. I don't put fences around my music. You can't tell me what to look like, how to act, what to say, what to sing. Country music is very much like that. They'll put you in a little bubble or a box. And once you're 30, you're too old. And once you can't have long hair, and you can't say the word ass in a song. Of course, they can now because country music has evolved. So when I was in Italy, I was retired, man. I was done. I got off the road. I was on the road for 7 years. I was done, man. I met a girl in Italy, and just after the tour was over, I stayed. Retirement lasted about 3 weeks. I gotta play. So I started writing these songs during that time, and I was just pouring out these tunes without any reason other than they had to come out. And before I left Italy, right before I left, I was there for almost a year. I went in the studio and recorded a demo, basically a souvenir of songs from my time in Italy. These are the songs I wrote when I was in Italy, drinking wine and riding horses on the beach and whatever. And I wrote the songs, recorded them with my guys there, my friends in the band there in Italy, because I played a house gig there, just to keep my chops up because I can't quit singing and playing. We went in the studio and cut this demo, and after the session, I took the CD into the bar where we were playing. We were the house band there. I took the CD into the bar. There was a lot of Italian people, local Italians, and then there was a lot of American servicemen. There was a Navy base across the street. And so I had both the American military audience and the Italian natives and everybody. And I walked into the bar, ordered a couple of shots, and I said, put this on the player. And the bartender put the CD on the player. And there's a guy sitting on my left. He goes, man, it sounds like country music. I like that. And there's a guy on my right. He says, man, this rocks. I got something here. This guy thinks it's country. This guy thinks it's rock. What is it? It's some kind of, like you said, Neeley, it's a hybrid. It's rock music, the same type of Keel songs that I've always written with strong, powerful riffs, choruses that bring the song to life. But now you got lyrics that mean something. You're not singing about, just slapping lyrics to somebody's riff and trying to make it rhyme. You're telling stories, and you're trying to make people feel something, and you're trying to elicit those emotions. With country music, there are no throwaway lyrics. Now, these days, there's a lot of crap in country music, but I learned from my country music days to make every line count. Every line's got to say something. It's got to mean something. You can't just because it's got the right amount of syllables and it rhymes, it's not good enough. So I took that lesson from country music and started writing songs like that. And then you put big, powerful, thunderous drums to it, and you put some screaming guitars like Rob Morcello, who played with Iron Horse. He came in and played these amazing Yngwie-esque neoclassical solos and licks over the top of my country-esque songs. Winning combination. I thought it was great. And there's a lot of Iron Horse still in this new Fight Like a Band album. Of course, Gino Arce, El Diablo, my bass player, has been with me 21 years now. He was the bass player in Iron Horse. He's been the bass player in Keel. He was the bass player in my country bands, and he's the bass player in Fight Like a Band and the Ron Keel Band. He is one of the common threads that really has made my music somewhat cohesive throughout these projects, from Iron Horse to Keel to Ron Keel Band. So to me, I'm at home with this new music, but if you play Just a Cowboy off the new record, the fans are going to hit the roof. And that's a country song. They don't want to hear that crap. You play Road Ready, that's fucking Keel, yeah, they're going to love it. And there's songs, the first song I wrote on the project is called Good Songs, Bad Times. And I had no intention of, I just wanted to write a good song, man. I haven't written a song in 4 years. I just want to write a good song. I don't care what style of music it is. And this really comes from the heart, man. I need some good songs to help me through the bad times. A melody, some love guitars and words that rhyme. I don't need no symphony. Yeah, it's just gotta breathe. All night long, a sweet love song about you and me. Let the bad times rock. And I thought, wow, what a great line. Let the bad times rock. Because we've been through, like you said, a lot of adversity, a lot of bad times. And I thought, and of course, you write it like, let the bad times rock. That's really cool. And you Google it. And nobody's ever used it before. So I'm really proud of that. And that song is not a metal song. It's not a country song. No, it's a Doobie Brothers song. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's a really good song to get you through the bad times.
No doubt, man. Well, Ron, why don't we play a song, or why don't you play a song? Even better yet. Why don't you play something, and then we'll talk a little bit more and ask a couple more questions and see where it goes.
Absolutely, man. I certainly. Your choice, man. Unless you want me to pick one. I know I played this one earlier for you at Soundcheck, Chris. I got to stand up because I'm not going to be screaming. I'm not a sit-down singer. All right.
All right.
I'm not a sit-down singer. I've got to stand up for this and play a song off the new record, which at the time that when we finished the session, I think this was my favorite song on the album. You had mentioned earlier today that it's one of your favorites too, Chris. Yeah. I appreciate that. And this is one of those songs that is not personal. It's not. Okay. It's not. Of course, they're all from the heart, but this is the chance to tell a story and about two people that meet and are bonded by music, fall in love, and you'll know what happens at the end of the song.
There we go.
This is off the brand new album, Fight Like a Band. It's called Hearts Gone Wild. Rolled down the window and offered him a ride. Somewhere in Texas, she started singing a song. pulled out his guitar, started playing along. They sang Victory and Bobby McGee, American Pie and Let It Be. As they headed west into the storm, witchy woman rambling down a lost highway without a plan, praying that they won't get fooled again. Hearts gone wild somewhere out there in the dark, two voices wishing on a shooting star, falling more in love with every passing mile. Hearts gone wild. She sounded so damn sweet, when words rang true. He felt her pain, she felt his too. She was the chorus, and he was the verse. He swore that she'd be the last, she told him he was the first. Hearts gone wild somewhere out there in the dark, two voices wishing on a shooting star, falling more in love with every passing mile. Hearts gone wild. They were halfway to Vegas when that sun came up. She never saw that semi-truck. They were blowing his eye when he ran out of luck. When the sun was halfway done, she sang Victory and Bobby McGee, just in the wind and faithfully, as he lay dying in her arms. Witchy woman in a rambling man on a lost highway without a plan. Lord, she won't get fooled again. Hearts gone wild somewhere out there in the dark, two voices wishing on a shooting star, falling more in love with every passing mile. Hearts gone wild. Hearts gone wild.
Excellent, Ron. Good stuff.
I think I blew a couple of speakers in here. But, it's worth it. It's worth it. And by the way, you guys got your own amplifier. I've got you piped into an amp, and I've got your voices big and large right in front of me. So this is pretty cool. The high tech in the fan cave tonight for the classic metal show.
Well, look at that. It just set up. You're just wired for sound.
I'm wired, all right.
Well,
we're gonna drink after that one.
Go ahead, man. Because I do want to ask. I want to go backwards in time a little bit, and it's something I don't think we've ever addressed on the show, which is surprising because you've been on about 7,000 times, and it's for a lot of people, even though it's a 3-second thing in the Keel history, it's still a big moment. I don't think a lot of people realize that there was that, stopwatch minute on your clock where you were involved or in Black Sabbath as the singer.
We've never talked about that, really. It's about damn time then. And man, I don't know if I should have sent you the tracks.
No, you didn't.
The new Black Sabbath tribute. Have you heard about that Emerald Sabbath project?
No.
Well, I can't comment on that. Really? You haven't heard about that? Really?
I have,
because you should be playing this. It's been a year and a half now since I got involved, and it's a fantastic. Well, it's got its adversity, like everything we're dealing with Ron Keel in my career the last few years. But this guy assembled 10 ex-members of Sabbath, included me in the mix because I was in the band. I have a signed contract that was announced on MTV and VH1. It was announced on the radio. I met with the guys. We did a lot of preparation. Tony Iommi gave me a song list and said, learn these songs for rehearsal. And 3 of those songs that were on that list ended up on this new Emerald Sabbath project that's just been released. And I got to sing Trashed off the Born Again album so I got to cover an Ian Gillan track, which is a huge challenge. That thing's a throat roaster, and it's maniacal, to say the least. That there's not a chance to breathe during that entire song. And I also got to cut an Ozzy song, Hole in the Sky, nice, which is really cool, and a Dio song, Die Young. And really honored to be a part of that. I was very, very happy with my results. I think that Ronnie Dio, who was a friend of mine who took us on tour in '86, and really was a big supporter of Keel and Ron Keel. I think Ronnie would approve of what I did to the song, tried to stay faithful to it and just sing it like Ron Keel would sing it, or how Ron Keel would have sang it if he'd been in Black Sabbath. Rudy Sarzo on bass, Vinny Appice on drums, DC Cawthorn from the Ron Keel Band on lead guitar. So I got a great track to sing along with. And the album came out February 15th. Okay. And I'm really fired up to hear it because they hadn't sent me the mixes. And so February 15th, this is just a few weeks ago.
Right.
I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I buy the damn thing on iTunes. I got my coffee, I buy the record on iTunes, download it, listen to it, and the whole track, not just my voice, but the entire track has been sped up a full step to where I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Oh, man, I hit the roof because it's very important, very special project for me to finally get that Sabbath Jones out of my system and be singing on a Sabbath tribute record. And I know you talked about John Levin being a tribute whore. I'm not necessarily a whore, but when the right project comes along, I'm really proud of some of the tribute records I've been a part of. We can talk about some of those other projects, but the Sabbath thing it's fresh. The wound has not healed yet because 2 of the songs, the Dio song and the Ozzy song, they sped them up to where it sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I was absolutely just livid. I, of course, got on the line with the executive producer, and so that's why I haven't been promoting the record. He's promised me that they've remixed the tracks and that they're re-releasing the digital releases and redoing everything so that the tracks will be the way they were meant to be, sung in the right key, the same key that the original album key. But the vocal results were fantastic. But you hear this, it's the whole song. The whole song is sped up like it's on 78 speed or something. It's really, I was heartbroken. I was absolutely heartbroken because it's a great record. I'm really proud of the music and getting to sing with Rudy on the bass and Vinny Appice on drums and DC on guitar. And like I said, I think Ronnie James Dio would approve of what I did with Die Young. So hopefully we'll have that. I could actually send you. I should have sent you because we're on the broadcast tonight. I should have made sure you were supplied with these tracks because I do have the original rough mixes from the studio when the songs were not pitched up out of control. So, the Black Sabbath thing, yeah, it's good. It's really cool to be a very, very small, tiny thread in the history of that iconic band. I'm surprised we haven't talked about it before, and I've told the story again and again, but I'll tell it for the metalheads listening tonight. I got the gig. The contract's done. It was a done deal. So Keel had been together for just a few weeks. We had a show coming up on April 7th, 1984. And Marc Ferrari and Dave Henderling, David Michael Phillips, who ended up in King Cobra, the original Keel lineup, they had really devoted themselves to the project and were ready to do a show, and we just getting started. And I came to them and I said, look, guys, this is Black Sabbath. I got to do it. I mean, and they were cool. They absolutely understood when you come to the guys and you say, Black Sabbath has hired me to be their new singer. They were cool with it. They backed me, and they prepared just to do the first and only ever Keel show, which would have been the first and last show we've ever did. And I said, look, you can't tell anybody, man. I am under a gag order. This cannot get out. Nobody can know, all right? You just can't tell anybody. I wouldn't tell you because you're my band, and I appreciate your efforts and wanted to share this with you and make sure you know, but you can't tell anybody, all right? They go, yeah, we won't tell anybody. I said, all right, so the band meeting's over. I leave the rehearsal room, get in my car. This is in Hollywood. I get in my car, I turn on the radio. It's KLOS radio in Los Angeles. First thing I hear when I turn on the radio, it's just been announced that Ron Keel is the new lead singer in Black Sabbath. Yes, Steve vocalist of Ron Keel. I go, oh no, how did the word get out? So I go home, turn on MTV. It's all over MTV. Martha Quinn looking at me saying, Ron Keel is the new lead singer in Black Sabbath. So I don't know how the news got leaked, but it was out, and it was announced in Kerrang! Magazine. And for better or for worse, I never got to record or tour with them. But the moment has one of those moments in time, like you said, Chris, it will always be a part of my history, and very proud just to be associated. If you go to black-sabbath.com, I'm listed in the lineup, along with dozens of other guys that have been in and out of Sabbath for the last 40, 50 years, but just proud to be a part of that. Sure. And looking forward to the re-release of Emerald Sabbath with the tracks tuned in the right key, because I didn't use auto-tune. I don't do that auto-tune crap. And if I'm going to sing a Dio song or an Ozzy song, I'm going to make sure before I leave the studio, I'm going to make sure I nailed it. And I was very happy with the results. Very proud at this age and the stage of the game that I can still deliver the vocals of that quality. And that's metal. That's me singing metal, and that's me singing Dio and Ozzy, and really, really proud of that. So I'll make sure to send you the tracks. Maybe you can play them at some point in the show next week or whenever you feel like it, so you can hear it, enjoy it, and share it with some of the Classic Metal Show audience.
Sure.
Well, Ron, since you brought up Dio, the hot debate is the whole Dio hologram thing. And do you have any thoughts on that, good or bad?
I do, actually. I have not seen the show. I have seen a lot of my peers and contemporaries commenting on what they think Ronnie Dio would think, because really that's all that matters. If the fans dig it, and if Ronnie would dig it, right? If the fans are enjoying the gig and they're getting to experience Ronnie, even if in a holographic state, that's cool. If the fans dig it, would Ronnie dig it? And I do believe he would. I think most of us, part of the reason we want to play music in the first place is because we want to live forever, man. Beethoven would be stoked to know that we're still playing his Mozart. These guys, if knowing that after I'm dead, people will still be digging my gigs, how can I not like that or approve of that? Now, how it's done or how it's orchestrated, I haven't seen the show and I don't know, but knowing Ronnie, I do think that he would approve. I think he would be honored and glad that his music and at least a piece of his performance, even if it's not in the flesh, I think he'd think it was cool. And I would be honored if somebody, I think all of us want that immortality, so to speak. And as long as it's a quality performance and the fans are digging it, I think Ronnie would dig it.
But let me be devil's advocate here for a minute on this one, Ron. And I honestly think, and I'm against it. I'll just tell you flat out, I am 100% against it. I will never see it. I will never spend money on it. And I'll tell you why. I honestly think that by doing this fabricated thing, that what you're doing is not letting the status of legend establish itself. I think part of the reason John Lennon or Ronnie James Dio or Dimebag Darrell or whatever is a legend is because There's a short lifespan. You get that, you have only that time that you can catch them. And if you don't, then it goes into the stories of folklore. And I think if you're seeing Dio out there on a hologram, you're not giving it the appropriate respect to let it live on infamously.
All right, good debate, good debate. At least it's Dio, though. What about this Motley Crue movie, The Dirt? It's not even Crue. The stories aren't even true. And it's some bunch of guys pretending to be Motley Crue, but we're all watching that. I mean, at least the hologram is the real deal. At least it's Dio. It's not a bunch of actors portraying Dio. What if they, like the Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, their mystique and their legacy hasn't been tarnished by the fact that they made a movie out of their story or their life. If it was Ronnie James Dio movie, I don't know, I'd rather see the hologram than some. I enjoyed Bohemian Rhapsody. The Dirt, I don't know, man. And Chris, because you've written books about this stuff.
Right.
And Nikki now backpedaling. Nikki's been in my on my newsfeed the last couple of weeks with the accusing Kiss of stealing their show. You've heard that, of course, and I'm sure you guys have talked about it. Now Nikki's backpedaling on the rape story in the book. You heard that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about that tonight, actually.
Okay. Well, we won't. I won't mention it, but I don't know. How well do you know Nikki and those guys? I mean,
Nikki hates us.
I knew them. I was a part of that scene. I'm not here to talk about Nikki or promote their movie. I'm here to promote my record.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, man, that book, The Dirt. Now Nikki's going, I don't remember doing the interviews. I didn't say that. I didn't do that. Yeah, he was all high when he did the interviews for the book. And so the book's not true. And I could kind of tell you that when I read it, because I knew those guys. Nikki was not. I mean, at least he didn't seem to me. And I played gigs with them from the Shout at the Devil album release party. I was the opening act at that gig. Crue, we toured with Crue. I had some up close and personal times with those guys. I never saw Nikki unsober. I could say fucked up on your show because you guys say it all the time. Never saw him, and he was always sharp as a tack, brilliant businessman, great songwriter, really conscientiously fabricating this hedonistic or decadent image because he thought that's what rock stars do and that's what's going to sell. It's what's made him an icon, a legend. But man, I have my doubts that he was as fucked up as he says he was, because to me he always seemed like he was absolutely on the ball. And now for him to backpedal and say, no, I never said that. I never raped that girl, because the statute of limitations doesn't expire on rape. I mean, that there could be some repercussions there. Oh, no, I didn't say that. I didn't do that. Well, the whole movie is based on the book that you don't remember talking about. So the movie's cool. I mean, what I think they should do is make a movie about the whole scene, though. Back in the day, and you have one guy, you have a band that's playing Stephen Pearcy and Rat, and you got the Dawkins thing, and you have Great White and Steeler, and make a movie about that whole scene, what it was like in 1982, 83, 84, the Quiet Riot. That would be not a documentary, but to capture that moment in time in a movie that's not just about one band, but about the entire scene. I'd pay to see that.
Well, that's what Inside Metal, the LA metal scene explodes, is all about there, Ron.
It's a documentary, though. It's not fictionalized. It's not actors portraying.
No, we don't want fiction. We want the real thing, Ron. We want the real thing, just like having you here tonight. The real thing.
All right, then. Well, I agree. And, back to the hologram, I don't know that I would pay to see it. But I do think Dio would approve. And that was, I think, the question that was posed to me. What do I think about it? Really, I saw Dio every night on tour. We did 14 countries, sold out throughout Europe on the Sacred Heart tour. And the first thing I did when their show started is I'm out there in the audience enjoying Dio's show every night of the tour. So I saw the real thing over and over again. I loved it. One of the greatest shows in the history of rock. He's fighting a dragon and on stage. It was amazing. So no, I wouldn't pay to see it because I did see the real thing. But for the younger generation who didn't get to experience that, maybe it's cool. I don't know.
Good job there. I got to ask you, your former guitarist, you mentioned him earlier in the show, Marcelo. That kid when you had him in the band and he was just a kid. You brought him over here from what, Sweden or something?
Yeah, second time. Yeah, it's the second time I brought a young 18-year-old guitar player over from Sweden. Thinking,
yeah, and he was an absolutely stage burner. That guy could play like just amazing. And when he left your ranks and went on to do other things, what do you think? See, a guy like that, in my opinion, with his stage presence, obviously his ability to play, all that kind of stuff. Why do you think that he isn't like a household name today? Is it because circumstances, maybe work ethic, or was it just the times that type of guitar hero type person that time has passed?
No, it's a sensitive subject because I do like the guy, and he is one of the, in my opinion, he's one of the 10 best guitarists alive on the planet today. Nobody knows how good this guy really is.
I do. I witnessed it myself. I was blown away.
And this guy can conquer any musical territory that you put in front of him, whether it was classical, blues, jazz, southern rock, country. He could learn it, play it, pick it up, and crush it in a matter of days. He's not a band guy. He's not a band guy. I think if he'd stayed with me, he probably would be a household name. Because we were on the verge of getting signed with Iron Horse. We had a lot of great business opportunities. He's just not a band guy. He's not driven to succeed. Sometimes I think when you play that good, when you're that good, it's so rewarding. But you have to want to succeed. You have to want to be in a band and relate to other musicians. You have to want to entertain people. He doesn't care about the audience. He doesn't want to entertain them. He doesn't want to give them something. He's supposed to play, and he's an amazing player, but he's not a band guy. He did some great work in Danger Danger. And I love the guy. But there's a reason why he's not known. And to be that good. I mean, if you're that good, if you're one of the 10 best guitar players on the planet, you should be cashing in, dude. That's all I have to say.
Well,
what the hell not? Come on.
That was the question, Ron, because I saw him, I met him, I got to know him a little bit through you, and I was just like, wow, this guy is absolutely amazing. And then, like I said, when he left your ranks, he basically never heard about him again, aside from resurfacing with Danger Danger.
He did a couple of projects. Did a project with Karabi and Blotzer called 24/7. I think the record got squashed or squeezed or something. It was a 3-piece. It was Marcello, Karabi, and Blotzer. Did the Danger Danger stuff, which is great. That Danger Danger record, he might have done more than one, but that Keep On Keeping On, that album, amazing record. Well, Ted Poley, what a great songwriter. I love Ted's songs and what Ted brings as a frontman, singer, songwriter, and Rob fitting into the Danger Danger framework. But that's too bad. I've been very blessed with guitar players like that throughout my career. Marc Ferrari, Brian J, Igbe Malmsteen, DC Cawthorn, the guitar player with the Ron Keel Band, everything I could have ever wanted. That's part of the reason why the new Fight Like a Band album has that Keel-esque flavor to it. It's because DC, Dave Cawthorn, my guitar player in the Ron Keel Band, was a Keel fan. He grew up listening to songs like Tears of Fire and The Right to Rock, and he is to me, not discounting any of the other guys I mentioned. I love Marc Ferrari and Brian J. We'll be seeing each other with you guys in Columbus, Ohio for Keel Fest. Keel is, that's a brotherhood. Love those guys, but DC Cawthorn, Dave, is like Ferrari with the melodic sense of creating these sing-along solos. Like Marc Ferrari was just brilliant at creating melodic solos. Brian J is brilliant at just shredding. And you put both of those together, that shredding ability with the melodic sense, and you get Dave Cawthorn from the Ron Keel Band. So he's the best of both worlds. His guitar playing on this record is absolutely one of the reasons it sounds, it's one of the reasons the Keel fans are embracing it, is because it's got that same flavor that combines both Marc Ferrari and Brian Jay in one guy. DC Cawthon, can't say enough good things about that guy. So if we're talking about Marcello, a guy who fallen off the face of the earth, he's in Sweden now. He's playing in some band called the Poodles in Sweden, by the way. But DC deserves a mention in this interview and any interview that I do, because he has been, to me, finally, after all these years, I found my Joe Perry. I found my Keith Richards. I found my Edward Van Halen or my Randy Rhoads. My on stage and in studio and songwriting partner, and Dave, a big part of the songwriting on every song I've written on this record, and a big part of our show as well. He's the good-looking blonde guy, in case you're wondering, if you're looking at a picture of the band. The good-looking long-haired blonde guy, who actually is an amazing player, too. So been very lucky with some good people in my band and in my career and in my life.
Well, you brought up Keel Fest in May. What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you whatever you want to know, man. It's my gig.
Well, where, when, what's going on, who's going to be there, all that kind of stuff.
So this is crazy, because it started out as, just an idea, like any song or show or anything that you do. I thought, how cool would it be to get all my family under one roof for one night? The guys in Keel, because Keel, the guys want to play. They're always bugging me, "Hey, Ron, can we book some gigs?" And I'm going, "Man, my priority is the Ron Keel Band. This album and this band, this is my business. This is my life. It's my total focus." But the guys in Keel are still my family, my brothers, and we've got a 30-plus year history together, and they want to play. How do I feed both dogs, so to speak? How do I get out there and promote my new album with the Ron Keel Band, and also satisfy the desire for the fans to see Keel and the guys in Keel who want to do the gigs? And I put together this format called Keel Fest, and I thought, well, while we're at it, let's go ahead and include Iron Horse and Fair Game and Steeler, and we got to draw the line somewhere. So the Steeler thing has been, that's a cool thing also, because that's the album that got it all started for me, and Yngwie Malmsteen and Mark Edwards and Rick Fox in 1983. And Rick Fox and I have stayed friends through the entire, the past almost 40 years, and he's a good dude, and really, I wanted to give him an opportunity to get back on stage in the big time and share that moment with him. We did a show at the Whiskey. Keel did a gig at the Whiskey a few years back, and I invited Rick up to sing, or to play. I sing, he plays. I invited Rick up to play a couple of Steeler songs. We did Cold Day in Hell, we did Serenade, and you could just see the true joy that he felt, and that I felt, and that the fans felt in that moment when Rick joined Keel on stage. I think that's when the seed was planted for Keel Fest. And I'm doing a gig, you guys know, you're Ohio guys, you know how deep my Ohio roots go from the Iron Horse days. I moved to Columbus, the Columbus area in 2000, summer of 2000, and put down some deep roots there and made a lot of friends, did a lot of gigs in that region with Iron Horse, and developed a following and a deep love of that area. And the first guy I met when I moved to town, Plain City, Ohio, just outside of Columbus, was a guy by the name of Big George. And Gino, RC, and I had just driven out from Columbus, Ohio. We rented a Penske truck and towed my car behind it. We're moving to Ohio. We drove all the way from Phoenix, Arizona to Plain City, and we pulled in this little town. There's 15,000 people in this town. It's about 30 miles outside of Columbus. And we pull in, found a bar, because I'm ready for a drink. Walk into this bar. We were like apple trees in a cornfield, because this is a small farm town outside of in rural Ohio. And we walk in with our cowboy hats and long hair, and we're shots of Jack, start yelling and drinking, and there's this posse of really mean-looking big dudes, like right to my right. And after about 3 or 4 shots, the biggest guy in the bar, 400 pounds, taller than me, just a big, massive man, turns over, looks at me, and says, "You ain't just gonna come into my town and drink all my whiskey now, are you?" No, man, this guy shot too. Ended up being my best friend, and he was the best man at Renee's and our wedding. We developed a really, really solid, strong, huge friendship And like I said, when Renee and I got married, I chose him to be my best man. That's how tight we got. He passed away last year of cancer, 10 years younger than me. And so he died. I went to Ohio to see him on his deathbed, got to sing a couple of songs for him and just say goodbye. But we're doing a benefit concert for him, basically a celebration of his life in Plain City, Ohio on May 11th. The Big George Memorial Poker Run, big bike event. He was a biker dude. Got a bunch of bikes that are riding and raising money for a good cause. That's happening May 11th. And, well, I'm going to Ohio anyway. What do we do the night before? And Tong Productions, Missy Tong, who's a concert promoter there in Columbus, says, why don't we get the Ron Keel Band to Columbus on the night before? And I said, how about this? How about we do this Keel Fest thing? How about we bring Keel and Steeler and Ron Keel Band? We just have this big Keel Fest thing. And they said yes. She stepped up to the plate, thought it was a great idea. And now the promotion's in full swing. It's going to be a great night, man. It's a huge celebration of my life and my career. It's not about me. It's about my friends, my bandmates, the guys that have stayed friends for decades now. The guys in Keel, Rick Fox from Steeler, Mitch Perry playing guitar with Steeler. Now, Mitch replaced Yngwie Malmsteen after 9 shows. Yngwie did 9 shows, and then Mitch came on board, replaced Yngwie in the band. So he's got deep Steeler roots. He also played on Keel's Final Frontier album. He played on Tears of Fire, as a matter of fact. And Mitch has been a friend and part of the family for decades as well, since 1983. And he's playing guitar with Steeler. Dwayne Miller playing drums with Steeler, because Dwayne actually auditioned for Steeler back in the day. He was just too young. He wasn't quite ready. He ended up being the drummer in Keel. And now, after all these years, Dwayne gets to finally get that gig playing in Steeler. And it's one continuous show, man. It's not band, break, band, break, band. It is one solid 2.5, maybe 3-hour show. The lead singer, because the lead singer talks a lot. I know that guy.
What?
He talks a lot. And so we're going to start with the Ron Keel Band and play all the new songs off Fight Like a Band, and then take you on a journey. At the end of the night, I can tell you, everybody in the entire cast, Steeler, Ron Keel Band, Keel, will all be on stage together singing The Right to Rock. The show goes from 9:30 to 12:30, about a 3-hour gig, nonstop. And after that, we've got a after party meet and greet where the fans will be able to get their photos with the entire cast, Steeler, Keel, Ron Keel Band, all at the same time. We'll have drinks, we'll just celebrate, we'll take photos, meet and greet, sign autographs, whatever the fans want to do from 12:30 to 2 when the bar closes. This is at the Alrosa Villa in Columbus, Ohio, legendary venue, and we're looking at a sellout. The capacity is 650. We're going to sell this thing out, so get your tickets while you can. For $30 tickets, $30 plus 20 for the after party. If you want to do the after party, $50 the whole deal at keelfest.com.
All right. Well, we're going to be there May 11th, right?
May 10th.
You guys are broadcasting, right? You're coming down, you're going to broadcast, you're going to do some highlights and interviews and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, Ron, why don't we do this? Because I don't want to keep you forever. Why don't you play us out with something Keelish, and we'll obviously do this again, man. This is always fun.
Keelish, yes.
Something Keelish.
I think it's all Keelish, isn't it? But let's strap on the electric. I'll play some John Lennon licks for you, all right? Yes. This song, I want to dedicate this one to a young man, if you have a minute. I got this book. Let me show you the book. This is the book. It's the best book I've ever written. It's called The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto by Mitch Albom.
All right.
And there's this young man. I've watched him grow since he was, 12 when I moved to Sioux Falls. He's now 16. He's absolutely, talk about the next generation of rock guitar heroes. This kid, he was amazing when he was 12. He was just shredding, like Yngwie at 12 years old. And you wonder how a kid like that is going to develop Is he going to be able to keep his ego in check or be able to mature? He's turned into just a fantastic young man as well. His name's Eli Dykstra. Find him online at EliDykstraRocks.com. D-Y-K-S-T-R-A. Eli Dykstra. Amazing kid. And he gave me this book for Christmas, all right? And it's actually a book that his mom gave him. The whole story is narrated by music. Music, like it's a god or a spirit or something. Music is the narrator of the book. And it takes you through the life of this fictional rock star. And his mom gave it to him when he was 6. He wrote in it, I can't read you, it's a private message. He wrote in this book about how close he feels to me and how much of an influence I've been on him. And it helped him through the last few years as I coached him in rock and roll camp at the Brennan Rock and Roll Academy. I've watched him grow into a player he's absolutely just literally an amazing guitar player. And he gave me this book as a Christmas gift. It really is the best book I've ever written. So we wrote this song on the new album called Rock and Roll Guitar. As I wrote the lyrics, it was originally going to be a novel because I wanted to tell the story of a guitar as it passes hands from one player to the next, from a rock star to a homeless guy, from a jazz player to a blues player. So it was literally going to be a novel, and I thought maybe you should just make a song out of it. I really don't have time to write the novel right now.
Right.
So I wrote a song called Rock and Roll Guitar about a guitar that gets passed on from one hand to the other. And at the end of the song, the lead singer or the storyteller passes the guitar on to the next generation. He's at a gig and he just hands the kid in the front row his guitar and walks off stage, and the kid takes over, kind of like the movie Rockstar. And so what we did for the recording on the Ron Keel Band album, this is track 3 on Fight Like a Band. I actually brought Eli in to play the end solo. So if you're listening to the new album, Fight Like a Band, that blistering, blazing, shredding solo at the end of the song, that's Eli. And I'm really glad that I could have the opportunity to give him a plug. He is the next huge guitar. You're talking about Rob Barcelo, my ass. This kid has got it and got it all. I mean, I'm really proud that he could make an appearance on our album, and I'll go ahead and do the song for you now. It's called Rock and Roll Guitar. He was down with his last dollar when he pulled into auto shop south of Main Street and laid that guitar down. He took the money and his memories, gave him tattoos and scars, and he left behind the dreams that died for a rock and roll guitar. You can turn it down, put it away, look back upon those reckless days, but you can't stop the music in your heart of that rock and roll guitar. He was just a kid in high school, but no one could change his mind. And the skills that he had were good, he was looking for an extra grind. When he bought that beat up 6-string, better than me with his next time. But all night long, he was writing songs on that rock and roll guitar. He could crank it up, roll you away, had miles to go, dues to pay. But you can't stop the music when it starts with that rock and roll guitar. Still the wood, it sounds damn good in the hands of rain like we should. It's hopes and dreams and bug strings, and the grip on those that make it sing. Rock and roll guitar. Crank it up, Glory way, got miles to go. To the pole. Shook inside the music in your head. And then rock and roll guitar. This is when he starts blazing. I mean, not like that. He's really. It's a good thing I've got some great guitar players in my band, that's for sure. But if you like rocks, check him out at EliDykstraRocks.com. And on the brand new album, track 3, Rock and Roll Guitar. I love that piece, man. Thanks for letting me play it.
Sure, dude. Well, dude, this is always fun, man. And, you know, I am most appreciative, not only that you took the time to do it, but, you know, you took the time in the middle of the afternoon to set up and dick around with me, you know, doing the setup and whatnot, man. It's people can like it, people can hate it, but they don't realize just how much passion you have for the music and for doing it. You know, there's a lot of guys that won't take the time, that if you don't catch them on their interview day, that's it. Then they're just not going to fucking deal with you. So I'll say it up front. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to Keel Fest, man. It's going to be fun.
Man, I can't wait to see you guys there. And I do appreciate the opportunity, man. This is fun. This is what I do, man. We play music. We entertain people. How could I not do that 24/7? And I always appreciate the opportunity to come on the show with you guys. It's been a fun night, and I look forward to doing it again at some point very soon, man. Thanks for keeping the classic metal show alive and supporting my music and what I do, man. It means a lot.
All right, Ron. Well, Ron, where can the fans find you and your websites and all that good stuff?
Appreciate that. It's very simple. One link, one hub, one central portal for everything that I do. RonKeel.com. Everything's there. My Patreon site that we have for subscribers, where they get all the exclusive audio, video, interaction, live chat, all the cool stuff that I'm doing on Patreon. You can find a link to that, and it's nothing to follow me. You can follow me just like you follow somebody on Twitter or Facebook. Doesn't cost anything. $1.99. You can subscribe and get all the news, all the cool stuff first. $6.99 a month gets you everything. All access. All the video clips. There's over 100 private posts now, including some of the vintage Keel shows from back in the 80s. My radio show, my podcast, anything that I could possibly think of to share with the people on Patreon. I love doing that. It's like my inner circle, my personal campfire online, so to speak. And you can find all those links, and to buy the new album, especially, at ronkeel.com.
Perfect. Well, Ron, as Chris said, we appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us and playing some live music and, you know, regaling us with a lot of stories. And you got the Keel Fest coming up in May, so come on out to that if, you know, you're in the area, you want to make the trip. Chris and I will be there as well, and it should be a good time. And speaking of the new record, we should play a song to take us out of this interview. So what should we play?
Let's hit with the title track, man. That song says it all. Fight Like a Band is a great selection. If you haven't heard anything off the record yet, it's a great introduction to the record. Road Ready is the lyric video, which you can also see that at ronkeel.com. Check out the lyric video for that one. The new single, Girls Like Me, coming next week with a great video, great music video for that one. But if I had to choose one song, of course, that's why it's the title track. This is Fight Like a Band. Thank you. Let the rock!
All right, here it is. It's Ron Keel Band, exclusively here. What, Ron?
Fight like a band. Live the rock. I love you. I'll kill you.
All right, on your classic metal show.